Welcome to this explainer on the fascinating, and yeah, sometimes pretty shocking, story of how we came to understand the human body. Okay, let's just dive right into this. I mean, the human body is incredibly complex, right? But how on earth did we first figure out what was actually going on inside of us? To answer that, we have to go way back and explore the origins of one of the oldest medical sciences there is, anatomy. Our journey kicks off thousands of years ago. We're talking long before anything we'd recognize as modern medicine. This is when the very first pioneers were trying to map this incredible hidden world within us all. And, this didn't happen overnight. The foundations were laid over a huge stretch of time. Get this, the first written descriptions we have pop up on Egyptian papyrus almost 5,000 years ago. By around 500 BCE, it's become a formal area of study. And then it really gets picked up in Greece by thinkers like Hippocrates and Aristotle, who's actually the guy who gave us the word anatomy, which literally means to cut up. Kind of direct, huh? And this right here is the core idea that drove everything forward. Hippocrates just understood this fundamental truth. You can't even hope to heal a body if you don't first understand how it's built. That single principle would just echo through the centuries. So now let's jump forward in time. Way forward to the Renaissance. This was a period of absolutely incredible discovery, where the simple act of looking with your own eyes was about to change everything. During this era, you have these pioneers like Andreas Vesalius, and they are pushing back against centuries of tradition. Beforehand, a lot of medical knowledge was just based on ancient texts that were considered perfect. But here's the catch. They often described animal anatomy, not human. Vesalius championed this radical new idea that truth could only be found through direct, hands-on observation of the human body itself. Now, here's where things get really interesting, because it shows how one tiny specific observation can spark a revolution. There was an instructor, Hieronymus Fabricius, who was studying veins, and he noticed these tiny little flaps inside them, valves. He didn't totally grasp what they did, but crucially, he documented them. And this is where it all comes together. Fabricius's student, William Harvey, took that observation and asked the big question. Why are those valves there? That question led him to the monumental discovery that blood circulates through the body. But really, this was about more than just blood. It was about applying the scientific method to the human body for one of the first times, actually testing a hypothesis instead of just trusting an old book, a total game changer. But this absolute explosion of interest in anatomy, well, it created a huge problem. As the demand for knowledge grew and grew, it led to a desperate shortage with some very dark consequences. Think about it. Anatomy schools are booming all over Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries. The need for cadavers for teaching and research just skyrocketed, but there was almost no legal way to get them. So, where did they come from? The answer shows the intense and often illegal lengths people went to for the sake of science. Well, this shortage created a grim new profession, the body snatcher. These resurrection men, as they were called, would literally rob fresh graves to supply medical schools. The situation got so bad that it even escalated to murder, with criminals actually creating corpses just to sell them. This public horror eventually forced governments to do something, leading to laws like Britain's Anatomy Act of 1832, which finally created the legal framework for body donation that we still use today. Thankfully, that dark history led to the ethical, structured systems we have today. So let's look at how anatomy is actually studied now. There are really three main approaches to see inside the body. So today, we look at the body through three main lenses. First is the regional approach. That's where you'd study everything in the arm, for example, all the muscles, nerves, and bones, all at once. Super useful for surgeons. Then there's the systemic approach. This is where you follow a single system, like the entire nervous system, as it weaves through the whole body. And finally, you have clinical anatomy, which is all about practical application, like using surface anatomy to know what a doctor is feeling for during a physical exam. So now that we know how we study the body, let's dig into the what. This is where we get the blueprint and the official language for our own bodies. So that systemic approach breaks the body down into these incredible interconnected systems. You've got the skeletal system giving us shape, the nervous system as our control center, the circulatory system moving fluids, the list goes on. Each one has a highly specialized job, but they all have to work together in harmony. But anatomy's more than just naming parts. It also gives us a precise, universal language to talk about motion. And these aren't some obscure terms. They describe actions you do every single day.
For instance, bending your elbow, that's flexion. You're decreasing the angle of the joint. And when you straighten it back out, that's extension. You're increasing the angle. Simple, right?
How about this one, moving your arm away from your side? That's abduction. Bringing it back towards your body, that's adduction. A good way to remember it is that you're adding the limb back to your body. And here's a great one for your forearm. Rotating it so your palm faces backward is pronation. Rotating it so your palm faces forward or up, that's supination. And the classic trick to remember this one is that you can hold a bowl of soup when your hand is supinated. See? You'll never forget it now. So when you look at the whole story, from ancient papyrus all the way to modern imaging, this 5,000-year journey has been an epic quest to understand ourselves. And it really makes you wonder, after all that time, what mysteries of the human body are we still waiting to solve? It just reminds us that for everything we've learned, our bodies are still full of secrets, and that quest for understanding is far from over.